So, welcome to today's first ACE of Employer Affinity Group meeting. We're super excited to have Carniesha Kwashie here with us today. She's the Senior Manager of Workforce Development, Corporate and Community Impact at PICO. And this session, as you see, is titled What Employers Need to Know to Access Diverse Talent. So,
So the first thing, just in terms of preparing for today, that I wanted to do is just make sure that I had an understanding of sort of what's guiding this group. And my intention today is to really make sure that I touch on the 5 points that are covered within the framework as it relates to cultivating employer partnerships. So I want to be able to touch on engaging employers, and being able to provide those insights into the industry I work in, which is utility slash infrastructure slash energy, what our workforce needs are, what it's meant for us in terms of collaborating with designing, implementing, and investing in resources, some of which include programs and initiatives. Provide some value in terms of connections and resources. That's why I sort of open with the question of how many people are located in the Pennsylvania area, because my hope would be that following this call, if it makes sense, that we could connect and have further discussion. Being able to provide that feedback on what it takes to run equitable programs, strategies, and practices, in addition to a workforce development expert. I'm also a diversity, equity, and inclusion and racial equity and inclusion subject matter expert. So everything I do has to have that equity lens within it. And in terms of the last point, which is to develop those longer term relationships that go beyond the customer to the strategic partner. So I'll touch on some of the things that we have done, we meaning PICO as a company. And I want to transition into who we are. So PICO is headquartered in Philadelphia. I'm right here at our main office building, and we are Pennsylvania's largest electric and natural gas utility. We are also a subsidiary of Exelon and Exelon Corporation, and that's the largest regulated utility company in the nation with more than 10 million customers. So from a PICO perspective, we serve 5 counties within our region, and you see the graphic here. We have natural gas customers, electric customers, and as well as just natural gas customers solely in a couple of the areas. We cover about 2,100 square miles, 1.7 million electric customers, 548,000 natural gas customers, and 90% of our customers are residential, which is why when I talk about the workforce development piece, we are talking about the people we serve in so many different ways. And then 10% of our customers come from commercial as well as industrial. I also wanted to talk about the structure from an employer perspective. And I can't see folks, but I'm hoping once I stop sharing some of the questions that I have, in addition to some pointed questions I have within the presentation, is when you're working with corporations, do you know how they're structured? Do they prioritize workforce development? Is it a focus area for them? Is it embedded into maybe their corporate social responsibility if they have it? What's kind of the size? Are they small, mid-sized, large companies? What I wanted to do during this presentation is sort of demonstrate to you all how we're structured, and then how that impacts how we work with educational institutions, community partners, and other key stakeholders throughout the region. So here at PICO, our work is led by Ramona Risco Benson, and she is the Director of Corporate and Community Impact here at PICO. The way Exelon is structured, there are sister companies such as BG&E in Baltimore, ComEd in Chicago, Pepco in Washington, D.C., Atlantic City Electric, and PHI, which is sort of within the DMV area. And we all are similarly structured, meaning that we all have a director of corporate and community impact. We all have a corporate relations team, a community engagement team, and most recently, workforce development. And so here at PICO, our workforce development efforts started in 2020. So from an employer perspective, when working with institutions, I always think it's important for them to know how we're structured. so that we can work most effectively together and understand where we have capacity and where capacity may be a challenge given the structure of the various stakeholders. For us, we're really about us, meaning PICO, eliminating barriers to opportunities through education and employment. And we do that through education and career information. We do internships, which are paid, pre-internships, which are paid, as well as apprenticeships, job training opportunities we provide. We do this a lot in partnership with our community partners. So we partner with over 30 organizations throughout our region who provide different supports to job seekers slash career seekers. And I have a list of those organizations further down in the presentation. And it's really about us addressing and lifting, mitigating, remedying for the barriers that we know exist that create challenges for those we serve connecting to opportunity. So this is our structure. Again, corporate and community impact, which could also be included as corporate social responsibility. So the question here is, how many of you may partner with corporations and corporate social responsibility teams? And more specifically, do they have an entity, whether it's workforce development or community development, that specifically focuses on addressing workforce needs? We are a team of 4. And so with that being said, there's myself, I lead the effort. So I report directly to our director of corporate and community impact here at PICO. And then I have a team of 3 folks who support. Keith Henderson, who's the manager of technical operations. He has 39 plus years of experience in the field and transitioned to what we call back office or more of an administrative role when the workforce development team was founded 4 years ago. There's Michelle Wells-Bates. She's our manager of programs and outreach. So she does a lot of the work with the community partners and the colleges that we work with in terms of scholarships, whether it's a college, university, or community college. A lot of that work sits within Michelle's arm, along with our high school internship program. And then we have Angelina Knock-Wallace, who is our business analyst, who helps with everything from keeping our budget in check to helping us analyze the outcomes of our various workforce programs that we run internally, as well as support externally. So the reason I wanted to show this slide here is because there's a certain structure. We've got operations expertise, community expertise, and then overall program analysis expertise. And then there's me who has to connect all those dots and then also focus on policy advocacy and practice, and really making sure that that helps to inform our strategies both internally in the company in terms of how we move the needle, work effectively with HR, talent acquisition, hiring managers, and others, as well as focusing externally on always sustaining effective relationships, creating new ones, and really assessing our impact across our region when it comes to workforce. I'm going to stop there before I transition into the next slide and ask, are there any questions or comments with relation to structure? And I thought it would be important to give you all from an employer's insight perspective, make sure you know how the teams that you're working with through employers are actually structured to see if they have, the necessary folks in place or supports that you all believe could help you all connect job seekers or career seekers to opportunity. Any questions or comments so far? And I can't see anyone, so if it's a question or a comment in the chat box,
We
please
do
feel free
have
to.
one comment in the chat from Jeree Bryant at ASU Newport. Your structure is intentional. What would you add ideally?
The structure in terms of the team composition is intentional. Most of the operating companies, we call ourselves opcos, are all structured the same, where there's a senior manager, there are managers of programs outreach or specialists who work with community-based organizations and other key stakeholders like workforce development boards. That's one of the things that when I came in, I wanted to make sure that we refined and expanded upon is the folks who essentially are in charge of managing the ecosystem, which are local workforce development boards, and making sure that we are able to leverage and partner in a way that allows for us to penetrate those resources so that job seekers have as much funding along with connections and resources that they need to either get training or connect to employment. In terms of the one thing that I think it's the one thing that I would change or add on, I think we have a pretty sound framework, but I will say that one of the things, I'm not sure how you add this on, and that's why I'm doing it in this presentation, is I think it's really important for us all to understand how we work. Sometimes people think, and I've been on the other side as a nonprofit stakeholder, if the employer would just do this, and then the employer says if the nonprofit would just do that, or if the educational institution would just do this or do that. Sometimes we don't understand how we're structured. And that's why I want to make sure that I level set. The other thing that I think would be really helpful that I would encourage you all to do that we do with our partners is help them understand based on the jobs that we are asking them to support with finding talent, is making sure they have an understanding of the career path visually. If there's a visual that supports these are the kind of positions we have available, these are the kind of progressions that can be made. I feel like things like that are very helpful. And I believe that it's also important for the job seekers themselves to have a good understanding of the potential career pathways that come along with the opportunities that we are giving them access and exposure to. So that's the one thing that I would heighten or beef up or change that I didn't see when I first came in that I'm now doing, but need to do more at scale with other positions outside of the 5 that we focus on. So I hope that helps. It's the visual aiding that I believe needs to be beefed up across the energy industry in general so people can really understand what their options are for opportunity. I'll touch on and move on, and thank you for your question. As I stated, we back in 2020 established this department. We work a lot with community-based organizations. The other thing I want to highlight here too, particularly when it comes to utility/energy sector positions, is we've partnered with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 614, along with our local workforce board, Philadelphia Works, and some other key stakeholders. For instance, I was appointed by Governor Josh Shapiro to sit on the Pennsylvania Workforce Development Board. So there are a lot of different players that we have to work with and have been doing so for over the past 4 years. And I have been at the company now for a year and 8 months. So I'm still a new employee. A lot of people here have been here 20, 30, 40 years. So I'm still quite in the embryonic phase of my career here at the utility company. But nonetheless, I think it's also important, depending on the industries that you all are trying to target, and I wouldn't go for all, I'd go for the ones that drive the economy locally or that are in high demand. Um, the unions become a really big part of what you're trying to do. And it's very important to build partnership and effective relationship with them in order to drive impact in your region. So we have a very great relationship with our union, Local 614, and I'm proud of that. These are the programs or the areas that we like to provide equitable access to, such as our training programs, both internal as well as external. We provide college scholarships, again, as I've mentioned, at the university, as well as community college levels, along with co-ops in partnership with Drexel University. So we really try to be intentional about when we are giving scholarships based on income, are those students aware of the internship or the job opportunities that are available at the company? So connecting those dots, not just giving out a scholarship and not really informing that student about opportunity, but we're very intentional about, you got this scholarship, we have an internship coming up, or we have a co-op coming up, and we want you to apply. And so we've been able to really make some progress there as a team in terms of working with our human resources team and talent acquisition, along with universities, in particular Drexel, to really make sure we're being intentional about creating that equitable access, particularly for college students who are receiving scholarships that are based on income. And we know those students, based on their income, because they're low to moderate, really need equitable access and awareness to opportunity. internships, and then we do a lot of career fairs. We do hundreds of events a year as a department, and we do about between 40 to 50 just career awareness and exposure events as a team, the team I showed you all earlier. So it's really about making sure the employers are aware of if you all are having career fairs or job fairs, whether it's at the college or whether you all are participating in a county driven one or a local one that maybe you all are not leading, but you know is a really good opportunity for that employer to be exposed to. Those are the kind of things we look for as employers to make sure we're getting the word out about our opportunities. And really, our goal is to enhance the employability within communities that PICO serves. And again, we have a focus on the underserved. We have 4 focus areas that drive our work: STEM education and training, barrier reduction and elimination, opportunity creation through partnerships, as well as thought leadership. And on the next slide, I'm just breaking down for you all sort of the tactics that we use to really support those focus areas. So we do high school career academies and internship programs where we're really just giving students through our employee engagement strategies and working with our colleagues, really exposure to what it takes to be in the industry and having them connect directly with people who are the experts and the craft people within their trades, and allowing for those students to really connect with them and get to know them and ask as many questions as they need to. I've mentioned our scholarships and our co-ops and our placement opportunities. And we've also done some structural things in terms of barrier reduction and elimination, where we have changed in partnership with the local union, HR, and talent acquisition, some of the criteria for our programming so that we can provide better resources to work ready applicants. For instance, in order to enter into PICO, when you are applying for craft positions, you have to, by standard, have passed a CAST test. That's the Construction Aptitude Skills test. And it's called CAST. If you do not pass that, you cannot get employed here. One of the things we've done through our helper pre-apprenticeship program is allowed for people to apply for opportunity here. And if they are accepted into the helper program, they are allowed up to 9 months to both pass CAST as well as acquire a driver's license, which was another criteria. So people do not have to come into our company with a recommended / pass status or a driver's license like they have previously had to do. That's part of what we've done to really lift the barriers, and it has created our diverse pipeline. We also provide educational supports and services through a nonprofit organization called Beyond Literacy, where free of charge, we allow for folks in the public, anybody can take these test preparation services along with our pre-apprentices to make sure that they're doing everything they can do to pass the entrance exams that we know are required for employment here, beyond our helper program. So those are some of the things that we've done in terms of barrier reduction. In fact, I just came upstairs. We just started our 3rd cohort of our helper program. We have 22 pre-apprentices, of which there were over 1,000 applicants for these 22 positions that folks now have acquired. They started today, and their journey they'll graduate in December. But nonetheless, we also have 4 women, which is our highest enrollment of women in our pre-apprentice program to date. So we're very proud of that. And this is, again, our 3rd cohort. So we are only able to really do that work through the partnerships and the coalition building that we're able to do. And that's why that's another focus area for us. So roughly 42% of those individuals who just started their pre-apprenticeship journey here today, as an example, came from community partner referrals. So we're really proud of that work. And we continue to make sure that through thought leadership, we're partnering with different stakeholders, telling our story, making investments in social media and other communication efforts that I think, really go a long way in terms of us being a corporate citizen and really needing to demonstrate, our holding ourselves accountable as an employer to really support workforce development in the region. As I stated before, I wanted to give you all a list of our workforce development community partners, and some of these folks we invest in monetarily, some it's through different means, but we are definitely committed to really working hand in hand. And so you'll see a number of colleges, community colleges, associations such as the American Association of Blacks in Energy, So, the affinity groups that represent our industry are great organizations to partner with. A lot of talent can be found there as well. A lot of great feedback and constructive feedback from industry experts can be found in affinity groups such as that, as well as the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. So we've had a lot of success with those affinity groups. But you'll also see here everyone from HBCUs like Cheney, we offer scholarships there, Bucks County Community College, Delaware Community College. I'm just reading off the colleges for now: Lincoln University, Montgomery County, Pierce College, um, Temple University, as well as Widener University. These are all local schools that we work with to really help us move the needle. But we also work with the Philadelphia Works, which is our local workforce development board. As I've mentioned previously, I sit on Pennsylvania's Workforce Development Board. And then we also work with the city of Philadelphia, particularly because they have received significant funding through the the IIJA funding, which is the Infrastructure Investments Job Act, of which we are a recipient to. So we're really trying to be intentional about partnering with recipients of that, particularly with a focus on workforce development. So this is about 30 plus organizations that we partner with. And the partners that are bolded are the ones that have really helped us to drive impact. And what I mean by that is there has been a conversion of people who've gone from either being an apprentice or a pre-apprentice into a permanent full-time employee here at the company. And so these are the organizations that have really helped to drive that. And many of them work in partnership with our local community colleges and others. So one of the things I, would always encourage folks to think about is sort of what's the role of the community partner and how can they help to support, whether it's an educational institution or employer, how can they be that bridge between organizations in terms of referral, placement, and other resource supports that are needed. And then here, just to give you all just some quick stats on the Helper Pre-Apprenticeship program that I've mentioned, which is one of our most critical programs that we have here that we run and own. So also having an understanding of uh, employers' programs when they're running their own program versus when they're investing in programs. So this is something we provide our own training, safety and other technical training here in-house to support people. I've listed the community-based partner referrals. So some of those organizations were on the previous slide. We're looking at the data. We're looking to see who's helping us drive the impact. And then where people are going. So the ultimate success, again, is to convert them from intern or from pre-apprentice to apprentice. And here are some of our top 4 positions of which we're seeing the folks that have come through our programs actually land in these apprenticeship opportunities, which will last for 2 to 3 years, and then they convert into first class or masters of their craft. So I felt it was really important just to demonstrate all that work that we do. Community partners have been a key force for us. We did have some initial success in our first cohort with being able to recruit people from the Community College of Philadelphia, but they did have some challenges with being able to recruit and sustain instructors. And so where we are now in terms of an employer and working in partnership with key stakeholders is relying on the community partners and still working in partnership with our local colleges and universities to identify internships or co-ops while they try to work and bolster the sustainability of instructors in some cases, as well as they're focusing and working on increasing and boosting their enrollments in the programs such as engineering and IT that makes sense. The other item I wanted to say is sometimes it's not always a class. Sometimes it's a 3-day workshop. So we also run our own initiatives of which sometimes it does materialize or matriculate into actual job placements. And that's the other thing too. Everything's not going to be a long program, but we do have a lot of referrals that come through our local colleges as well as community partners where we say, hey, and you'll see CCP here at the bottom here, as well as Orleans Tech and Williams College, which is a trade school, where we say we're gonna, over the next 3 days, we're going to give an introduction into the trades. Please tell all of your students. We hope that they will gain an interest in it. And if they do, we encourage them to apply when opportunities are available. And you'll see that we've had a total of 317 folks attend these infrastructure academies over the year, which has resulted in 35 placements to date. The other thing that I always like to say is understand and know the hiring process of the employers. When I tell folks that PICO's hiring process is about a 6-month time frame, they go, "Are you serious?" And I go, "Yes." From the time the job gets posted to the time someone starts their actual position, craft or non-craft, it's a 6-month process. And so that's something that's really, really, and I believe is really, really important to focus on, is really having an understanding of that hiring process, because that allows for the institutions and the stakeholders to plan accordingly, as well as job seekers who may be, coming through community partner or other kind of referrals, or individuals who decide to apply directly to the company. But it's a 6-month process, and that's a long time. That's not typical, but that is our reality with relation to the utility sector and all the clearances and background checks that are required. I just wanted to demonstrate here. Here are some of the priorities, the key initiatives that drive us. So one of the things I would encourage people to do, if you haven't done so already, is just have an understanding of what's really being prioritized or really driving the workforce efforts of the corporations or businesses that you're working with throughout the year, and then really seeing where you can partner and support with where they're saying their priorities are for the year. So we do a lot of focus on internships. The IIJA planning is taking up a lot. Clean energy grants are really booming in our region. So partnering with our local workforce board on Department of Labor grants, our own internal programs, which I've shared, and then just making sure that we're always advocating as a thought leader for the kinds of things that we know can connect people to real opportunity. And then I wanted to transition into, if there are any questions or comments, please let me know. But there are some questions that I had for the group that I wanted to touch on. And the first question is just thought, and I can put these in the chat too. How do you currently approach workforce development in your organization? And what challenges have you faced in connecting with employers to connect diverse talent to opportunity? That's the first question. The second question I'd like for folks to think through, and please feel free to take yourselves off of mute and sort of process and think through how you want to respond to them. And I'll just copy them right now so I can paste them in the chat. What are the main goals you communicate with employers to support with building a diverse workforce? How do you communicate what you're trying to do as an institution or as a stakeholder? I think that's really important. Sometimes I walk away in conversations, just in general, not really being sure if we really touched on what the stakeholders trying to achieve, or if I was really clear enough about what we were trying to achieve and being as specific as possible. And that's why the last question I say is, when you're engaging with employers in particular, have employers clearly communicated their main goals when partnering to build a diverse workforce. I love it when people are very explicit in asking us what our needs are, what our projections are, what we can share with them, instead of just thinking that there's an abundance of resource because we're a corporation. The reality is we're all limited in terms of our resources. And so I think it's very, I love when stakeholders and organizations are very clear that we as employers need to be clear about what it is that we need support with and what we're looking for. So these are just some of the questions that I wanted to pose as I was asked by Diamond to sort of put some questions together for the team to help, I guess, demonstrate, some of the questions that are on my mind as an employer when it comes to engaging with stakeholders such as yourselves. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.